What is going on, everybody? I am back today to talk about the newest movie from David Cronenberg. And I was actually really excited to see this when it was first announced in the theater. I'm a big David Cronenberg fan. I think he has an absolutely incredible catalog of films that includes some of my favorite movies of all time. And this movie, I know the reviews were kind of all over the place for it, but when I saw the trailer, I thought the concept was really interesting. And the last film that Cronenberg released, Crimes of the Future, got very mixed reviews, and I absolutely loved that movie. I honestly think it's probably one of my favorite films in Cronenberg's entire filmography. And the more I think about it, the more I really appreciated it. So I was hoping that this movie would kind of align with that this would be something that I really appreciated, even though the reviews are kind of middling for this one. And the film I'm going to be telling you about today is The Shrouds. The Shrouds is directed by David Cronenberg. Inconsolable since the death of his wife, Karsh, a prominent businessman, invents a revolutionary and controversial technology that enables the living to monitor their dear departed in their shrouds. One night, multiple graves, including that of Karsh's wife, are desecrated, and he sets out to track down the perpetrators. So I was super excited to watch this movie. Like I said, I am an enormous fan of David Cronenberg. I think he's just one of the greatest filmmakers to ever do it. Just his mind and the way he approaches certain subject matter in association with like societal norms or sexuality or the state of the political world, just any of these different themes that he examines, I always feel like he does a really phenomenal job. And what I will say is, this movie disappointed me quite a bit. I don't think it's horrible by any means. It was very average to me. I feel like it has a really incredible concept. And I know David said when he was creating this movie that it came from a very personal place because he had lost his wife and that he was kind of meditating on losing his wife and making a movie about it. But I feel like everything in this movie is examined in such a hollow way that none of it really has all that much time to resonate, unfortunately. And I felt like the character writing was lackluster, and there's just not a lot to keep your attention for the entire 2 hours of the movie. And I'm going to break that down for you today when I discuss the film. So at the beginning of the movie, we are introduced to Karsh, played by Vincent Cassel, who is like the plot description says, he's a businessman who owns this graveyard, and it's also attached to a restaurant, which I thought was like Cronenberg trying to be funny, but he's trying to go on a date at the beginning of the movie. And we learned that his wife, Becca, has passed away and that she is buried in that cemetery. And he has created this technology, which is essentially, they're called the Shrouds. It's a giant burial shroud that you put around your loved one. And when you bury them, it has a camera in it. And you can go to the grave plot and turn on this screen and see the body of your loved one. And it's a way for you to have a more intimate form of connection with that person that you lost. And the person that he's dated or that he tries to date finds it to be very strange, which I think a lot of people would think that it's strange to go and watch the corpse of your loved one rot away. But we learn a little bit more about his life. And Becca's sister, Terry, played by Diane Kruger, who they both are played by the same actress. I don't think it ever says they're identical twins, but they look very much alike. Terry and Karsh have a close relationship. You can see that there's something there, but for some reason, Karsh does not want to start a relationship with her. I think part of it is due to he has a relationship with her ex-husband or boyfriend, Maury, played by Guy Pearce, who helped him work on this technology for these grave sites. And so we get this relationship dynamic established really early on. Well, very early, someone comes and vandalizes these grave sites and destroys a bunch of the headstones. And the entirety of the film is Karsh trying to figure out who is doing this vandalizing and also noticing on his wife's corpse that he locates something on her bones and is trying to investigate that. The entirety of the film is his investigation into that, who destroyed these grave sites, and then the relationship between him and these characters. So like I said, this movie was disappointing, to say the least. I feel like it's not horrible, but I'll talk about the positives. For starters, it looks really nice visually. I feel like Cronenberg always does a really great job with, presenting disturbing, uncomfortable imagery in a way that like you have to sit and stare at it and let it linger with you. I would say this is much less violent than a lot of Cronenberg's films. It's very reserved, but it does look really nice. I felt like the movie looked good, and because of that, the environment was easy to immerse yourself into. I also really enjoyed the musical choices in the movie. I thought that that really helped accompany the film along and really create an environment that I'm used to with Cronenberg's films. I also loved the story behind this. I think there's something so incredibly fascinating about like the sort of morality and ideas behind being able to view someone you love in their gravesite long after they're dead, and like thinking about if technology like that existed, how many people would actually seek out to utilize it, or like if there would be religious organizations or people that would try to push back against it. And I think that that's a really fascinating thing, and that's something else I appreciated about the movie. But that sort of leads to the issues that I have with the film, which is you give us this really incredible concept and you never examine it past the surface. It never goes past a specific point. I feel like that concept alone is something that Cronenberg in his previous work would dive into in a way that you're picking it apart. And I feel like there's like a couple of little conversations, like there's this guy he talks to through a video conversation that's apparently a group that's very against what they're doing, but you never linger on it long enough to create an interesting conversation or dialogue in your head about like, oh, how do other people feel about this? Is there a pushback? How does the government feel about it? Like there's so many different ways that you could approach this subject matter in a way that I think works really well. I also think the other part of this movie, which is the grief of our lead character, is not explored in a way that resonates at all. I feel like there's so much droning, useless dialogue in this movie that doesn't add to the character's thoughts and feelings. It doesn't grow the character whatsoever, and it doesn't really, outside of longing for the person that he loves and clearly being obsessed with the idea of not being able to let her go, I just don't feel like it dives into it in a way that, like, when the movie ends, it sits with you and resonates, which I feel like, you know, I've talked about death a lot on this channel. I watch a lot of somber films. And when you lose someone you love, it is very difficult to deal with. And there becomes this level of obsession for some people where they just really can't let it go. I think a perfect example is the film Bring Her Back that I reviewed earlier this year, which I think handles this type of subject matter and the loss of a loved one and kind of holding on to that in a far more fascinating way that resonates a lot more palpably than something like this. And I feel like Cronenberg, there were some moments of dialogue that I could feel that struggle coming across, but it never lingered for the whole 2 hour runtime. And the movie does have a melancholy feel to it, but I feel like a lot of it's due to the poor pacing. It's just kind of really hard to invest yourself into it. And some of the relationships and the sexual dynamics, while it's interesting, I don't think it necessarily dives into it enough for you to want to sit and think about it. Another big problem for me in this movie is the performances are all really bland. I thought Vincent Cassel's performance was really bad, honestly. His dialogue delivery got almost Tommy Wiseau at specific points where I just felt like he was trying way too hard and it was really impossible for me to take him seriously. And most of the actors in this movie, I guess the word I would use to describe the performances are stale. And I get like if you want the movie to come across as really cold and methodical, but like the emotions of the characters don't necessarily complement that tone well. So it's just really hard for any of it to resonate. And I also feel like when he tried to amp it up at the end and add some sort of like twist or mystery or intrigue, there's not enough there for you to care. And that was my biggest issue with this movie, is I just expected to care so much more, but instead I was just left feeling like I don't regret watching it. There's some interesting things there, but I don't see myself ever revisiting this again when Cronenberg has so many other incredible movies in his catalog. So have you seen The Shrouds? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Leave me a comment down below. Let me know what you thought. I thought this movie was incredibly mediocre. I'm really disappointed, and I'm hoping that whatever Cronenberg does next is much better than this. As always, if you can like the video and subscribe to the channel, helps me out a lot and lets me know the type of content you're looking for. I'm always putting out new material and look forward to getting more out for you in the near future. And as always, everyone, thank you so much for watching and have a great rest of your day.